What's good, that gang? I've got my AYANEO 2 here. I've been working on the review for this one, following my review for the ROG Ally, and I just couldn't help compare not just these two systems, but I couldn't help compare it to the Steam Deck as well. These three handhelds are really the best handhelds you can buy right now. It almost seems like it would be doing a disservice to not do those comparisons. I know that some people don't want to see those comparisons at all, but I thought it was really important to show where each handheld ranks in each of these different categories. The more I did it, the more I wanted to sort of formalize it. So I have put together a spreadsheet to rank each of these three handhelds. But first, I need to give you a word from our sponsor, Surfshark. It's clear now more than ever that our data is valuable to virtually every internet service out there. Apps on our phones always use our geodata. They're all looking to get our demographic information, and they're using all of this data to determine the best ways to keep us engaged on their platform. And you know the adage, if you're not paying for the product, then you are the product. Accordingly, it's important to know what tools you can use to keep your private data actually private, and a VPN is always the first tool that comes to mind for me. VPNs protect your connection while you're using the internet. They make your browsing private, they hide your IP address, and ensure that even your internet service provider can't track you. This is especially crucial when you're using public Wi-Fi. I was staying at a hotel and I needed to log into my bank's app, and there's just no way I would have done that on the hotel Wi-Fi without a VPN. Plus, listen to this, Surfshark actually has a strict no logs policy, RAM-only servers, and military-grade encryption to ensure that your data remains your data. So get Surfshark VPN at surfshark.deals/fanthedeck and enter the promo code FANTHEDECK to get an exclusive offer and 3 months for free. Thanks again to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. All right, guys, for the observant among you, I have a wardrobe change, but I tried to keep it still kind of festive. My camera died yesterday, so I just stopped there, and we're starting over here. And I want to show you what we got. We've got 15 categories that we're going to rank, and we're going to do a ranking of first, second, and third. There are a lot of different ways you can slice and dice this. Like, instead of going first, second, and third, it probably would be more accurate to score these on a scale of like 1 to 10 or 1 to 100. But I kind of wanted to keep it easy for myself, and I wanted to keep it easy for you all to understand. This ranking, by the way, has I put a scorecard in the back end here, not in the back end. I've just put it as a different tab in this Google Sheet. And so that you can see when I score all of these, we're going to get a score. The minimum possible score is 15 if one of these devices gets third place and everything. And the highest possible score is 45. And so we're going to get right into it. I'm not going to talk about the categories up front. I'm just going to talk about the categories as I get into them. So let's do it. Let's get right into it. So first is purchasing and returns. ROG Ally gets first place. You can go get an ROG Ally in the store, but not just that. If your ROG Ally has a problem, you can return it in the store within the return window or whatever it is. But if you're seeing an issue, it's easy to just go back to Best Buy and get your money back or get an exchange. To me, Steam Deck is a pretty close second. Ordering a Steam Deck, the process is really nice, but you can't just get one same day and you can't return it same day. So to me, that's an easy second place. Just like AYANEO 2S is an easy third place. Manufacturer support. I listed this as separate from purchasing and returns. This is like if you have a problem past the return window, how easy is it going to be to get your device serviced or get help for your device from the manufacturer? For me, Steam Deck is first. Asus is a large company, but what I've seen is that Asus is really hit or miss with their support. So I've got to give it to Valve here. So in that case, I'm going to give Ally the second, and AYANEO is trailing behind the first two. One point I want to give in favor of the ROG Ally, Asus put out getting started articles for the ROG Ally that are really helpful, and I wish Valve had done the same thing, but they did it. Of course, the onboarding for Steam Deck is not the same as the onboarding for ROG Ally. So anyway, I still give Steam Deck number one. I give ROG Ally second place, and I give AYANEO third place. Those rankings were pretty easy for me. And this set of rankings is going to be pretty easy for me too. Steam Deck once again gets first, ROG Ally gets second, and the AYANEO 2S gets third. So this is community support. When I say community support, I mean a few things. It could be guides, so guides on how to load up emulation, how to load up certain games, things like that. It could be actual software like Heroic Games Launcher, Cryo Utilities, things like that. And it could be hardware, whether that's 3D printed hardware or just accessories that have been made specifically for this device. So for me, Steam Deck is number one. As of right now, it's an easy first for Steam Deck. It's pretty easy second, I would say, for ROG Ally. So that's an easy ranking for me. Next, we're going to go to performance. All right, I think this is pretty easy first for me with the AYANEO 2S. The AYANEO 2S has a 7840U. I've been playing around with it and it works extremely well, and the benchmarks are good so far. I need to do a little bit more in terms of benchmarking, but just the eye test, I would say the AYANEO 2S performs much better than the other two. For performance, I'm going to give second to ROG Ally. Right now, I'm on BIOS 3.19. There hasn't been an update for that. There is a hotfix for the driver, but it doesn't do all that much in terms of performance. The benchmarks are still pretty bad. Performance for 15 watt on the ROG Ally is pretty close to the performance you're going to see for 15 watts on the Steam Deck. It's not a big enough difference yet, but I do expect that to improve with a new BIOS. I also know that with the ROG Ally, you can go well above 15 watts. So I'm going to say that ROG Ally gets second. One more thing I want to note here, though, is that Steam Deck beats both of these when we're talking at 11 watts and below. But I'm actually going to refer to that in the next category. So I'm going to give Steam Deck third here. All right, for battery life, let's talk about it. So this one gets a little trickier for me. The AYANEO 2S has a 50.25 watt-hour battery, whereas the other two have a 40 watt-hour battery. So the AYANEO 2S already starts with the larger capacity. Even though most of the time you play it, you're going to burn a little more life than the Steam Deck. So for me, the ROG Ally is an easy third place. It has the same battery capacity as the Steam Deck, and typically you're going to burn that battery a lot faster. I kind of think that the AYANEO 2S and the Steam Deck are tied for first here. I think that the extra capacity in the 2S brings it kind of up to par with the Steam Deck. Even though you're going to be burning a little more power, you've got some headroom thanks to the 50 watt-hour battery. So I'm giving first as a tie to both of these. And when you look at that and contrast that to sort of the performance, well, the 2S looks pretty good here, right? Because it's really performant and you can still get pretty equivalent battery life to the Steam Deck, even with those extra frames. All right, so that's battery life. Let's talk about the display. This is a tough one for me too. The only easy thing here is that Steam Deck is in third place. And now listen, I think that Valve made the right choice with the Steam Deck screen in terms of something that was affordable, something that was just well suited to the Steam Deck itself. But I feel like there's no denying that the Neo 2S and the Ally have better displays. So the Neo 2S has a 1200p resolution, but not only is it higher resolution, the color range is so much better than the Steam Deck, like incredibly better. So even if I'm just playing games at 800p resolution, it just looks so much better on the Neo 2S. So I can't help but rank the Neo 2S higher than the Steam Deck. Where I have a tough time here is which one is better, either the Neo 2S or the ROG Ally. The ROG Ally is 1080p, but here is where ROG Ally shines. First of all, it's a landscape display, so it has actual vertical synchronization. So that's a nice advantage for the ROG Ally. Not just that, it's variable refresh rate. People are going to mention 120 hertz display. That's great too, but it's really the variable refresh rate that makes the ROG Ally display so nice. It means that when you have kind of spiky frame times, it still looks good, at least to me, to my layman eye. So I think I've got to give it first place, and I've got to give the AYANEO second place here. All right, speakers. Neo 2S comes in third. Pretty handily. Both the Ally and the Steam Deck are front firing versus the Neo 2S, which is down firing. But honestly, even if it was front firing, the Ally and the Steam Deck just sound much, much better. To me, the Ally and the Steam Deck are pretty close. I've heard some people say that the Ally is like much better than the Steam Deck speakers. I think it's pretty close, but I still give the edge to the Ally. So I'm giving the Ally first, and I'm giving the Steam Deck second. All right, ergonomics. Ergonomics is tough. I was tempted to give this a three-way tie. They're all very comfortable to hold, but in the end, I'm going to give the nod to the ROG Ally. ROG Ally comes in first place because of how light it is. It's just really, really light. And don't get me wrong, the other ones, the Neo 2S and the Steam Deck, are still really comfortable to hold even for long sessions. And I have bigger hands, so I'm comfortable with that size. Now, do I give a two-way tie to the Neo 2S and the Steam Deck? No, I think I'm going to give second place to Steam Deck and third place to the Neo 2S. So the Steam Deck just has a very utilitarian feel. It doesn't always look the prettiest, but just holding it in your hands, it feels like a really good mold. It just feels right. So I've got to give the nod to the Steam Deck when compared to the Neo 2S. All right, ease of use. This one's easy for me. It goes Steam Deck first, ROG Ally second, Neo 2S third. I don't think there's anyone that's really going to deny that, right? Like the Steam Deck is just the easiest to use. You hand a child the Steam Deck and it's going to be a lot easier to load up a game than handing them an ROG Ally, bar none. I think the Neo 2S and the ROG Ally are a lot closer than people kind of say, but ROG Ally, in my opinion, is just a little bit more stable, has a little bit more functionality. So I'm going to give the nod to the ROG Ally there between the ROG Ally and the Neo 2S. All right, game compatibility. So it's tougher than it looks. So I have to give Steam Deck third place, like undoubtedly. The reason you have to give Steam Deck third place is because it doesn't have compatibility with like easy anti-cheat games. And there are times when games get released and the game is not compatible with the Steam Deck out of the box. But there are some things to consider here where a game will more easily launch sometimes on a Steam Deck than it will on an ROG Ally. I forgot the example I was watching. Oh, Diablo 4. Oddly enough, I was watching the latest Deck Ready video, and oddly enough, he had a lot less trouble playing Diablo 4 on the Steam Deck than on the ROG Ally. So there are instances, I think, where you're going to just find it, and I think this goes back to ease of use, where you're just going to find it easier to get a game to run on the Steam Deck when it runs than other systems. But at the end of the day, you have to go through the compatibility layer and things like that. And so I have to put it third here. The Neo 2S and the Ally, I'm going to give them both first here. I'll give them a tie for first. All right, traditional controls. Actually, let's go to non-standard controls. Let's skip traditional controls because it's going to be easy to talk about non-standard controls. Non-standard controls, I'm giving Steam Deck first before even telling you what this is. Non-standard controls are, in the case of the Steam Deck, I'm talking about capacitive touch, 4 back paddles, and 2 touchpads. Those are things that you don't typically see on a control pad or on a handheld device. So easy first place. For that same reason, I'm going to give second place to ROG Ally. It has these remappable macro buttons on the back. Anyway, I'm giving the Neo 2S third place. It does have some nice buttons to navigate windows. It has LC and RC and things like that, but I just can't give it that's not enough to put it over the ROG Ally, which has the remappable macro buttons on the back. Going back to traditional controls, this is tough. So when I say traditional controls, I mean the D-pad, the analog sticks, the buttons, the shoulder bumpers and shoulder triggers. I think for the traditional controls, I have to give Neo 2S first place. It has the best D-pad. I like the press of the buttons. They take a little extra force to push down, and that's helpful for the bumpers. Sometimes I press the bumpers on the Ally accidentally. These bumpers for the Steam Deck are a little hard to reach sometimes. They're not as intuitive to me. I've gotten more used to pressing the back buttons on the Steam Deck than pressing the bumpers. Oh, one more thing in favor of the Neo 2S are the Hall sensor sticks. It has whole sensor sticks. That's great. So that's again, Neo 2S is an easy first place. For ROG Ally versus the Steam Deck, the dead zone on the analog sticks for the ROG Ally, it's wonky. So that might be a reason to give it a demerit, but overall it's better. The D-pad it doesn't have a strong pivot point. So I've seen a lot of accidental inputs on my end. I gave it high praise to start, but the more I've used it, the more I've seen some accidental inputs on the D-pad, but I still like it better than the Steam Deck D-pad. I don't know. I'm giving the ROG Ally second, but it's a very slight second in comparison to the Steam Deck. All right, repairability. I don't feel qualified to answer the repairability. I'll give you my thoughts based on what I've seen, but I'm not going to give a score. To be honest, the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck seem pretty close. One complaint about the AYANEO is that it has these, because of the like screwless design where it has these panels on the side that you're supposed to pry off and then open the device that way. So I think the AYANEO 2S is like an easy third. I just don't feel right answering it because I haven't opened any of these. So I'm going to leave it at that. eGPU compatibility, ROG Ally gets an easy first. It is proprietary. I haven't used the AYANEO 2S for anything here. I mean, I haven't used any of these, so maybe I shouldn't respond. Maybe I shouldn't give responses for this one either. But you know, the AYANEO 2S has USB-C 4, so just based on the standards that we know about, it should have decent eGPU compatibility. It seems like an easy second, and Steam Deck is an easy third, right? And then finally, value. We could either talk about this as just price or just talk about this as value. I decided to go with value because price is almost too easy. It's too objective, right? So we could do it, and in my opinion, the answer would still be the same, but the price for the Steam Deck is the lowest. The price for the ROG Ally is the midpoint, and the price point for the AYANEO 2S is the highest. But in terms of value, I think the value that you get at $400 is just unbeatable. You cannot beat it. Literally. So I have to give Steam Deck first place here. And then I think I have to give ROG Ally second, and I think I have to give the Neo 2S third, even though I do think that the value that you're getting for the 2S is better than the value that we've gotten for handhelds in the past. But you know, it's not the past, it's the present. And compared to these other two, it's third place. All right, that's everything. It's time for us to look at the scorecard. Before I look at the scorecard, I do want to say, I don't think that this is objective. A lot of people are going to see this and say, oh, great, this is an objective review. I don't think this is objective. I think this is very subjective in so many ways. So number one is the categories that I chose. I could have chose different categories. I could have added categories. I could have removed categories. I happen to choose these categories. I think that these categories are representative of what people want to see and how people are valuing these devices, but I don't think they're objective. Of course, next are my ratings. Some of these ratings you may have a different opinion on. Not a big deal. That makes sense to me. And then finally, the way that this is not an objective and necessarily very accurate or precise measure is, like I said early on, I didn't have to do first, second, or third. I could have done a scale of 1 to 100. That might have been more precise, but I don't think it would have been as easy or as readable. So I chose to go with first, second, and third. All right, that's enough of the bullshit. Let's get to the scorecard. So the ROG Ally wins 33. The Steam Deck comes in second at 29, and the Neo 2S comes in third at 24. So going back to sort of the subjective versus objective thing here, if your concern was primarily performance, battery life, and let's say display, I think the AYANEO 2S wins. If your concern is ease of use, non-standard controls, and just the value you get for the money, Steam Deck comes in the winner easily. If you really care about eGPU compatibility, then maybe none of this other stuff matters because you really want to be able to dock it to something that is performant. And ROG Ally is the easy winner there. Different people are going to have different opinions. For me personally, Steam Deck is still my favorite. I mean, you got to think about it like this. I really love non-traditional controls. I really care about ease of use. Game compatibility is less important to me. A lot of the games I want to play are compatible on the Steam Deck, and manufacturer support and community support are big bonuses for the Steam Deck. So for me, the Steam Deck still wins. Everyone's going to come to this with a different opinion. Everyone's going to come to this with different perspectives. I don't think this is objective, but I thought this was cool to do, and I will share this form with you. I'll put a link in the description so that you can try this for yourself and you can see what you think. I thought this was fun to do. Let me know what you think. Let me know in the comments if this changes your mind about anything. If you like these kind of videos, leave a like, leave a subscribe, help out the channel. Thank you very much. See ya. Tech Gang out. Goodbye.